I'm Dave Baker.
And I'm Andrew Price.
Welcome to Deep Cuts, the podcast where we pick a topic and walk you through the ins, the outs, and the nitty-gritty so you can appear like an interesting and idiosyncratic person at your next forced social function. Today's topic is
Lord Gordon Gordon.
Who was Lord Gordon Gordon? Well, he was one of the most famous con men of the 19th century who pulled off a grift so massive it nearly caused a U.S. military invasion of Canada. Act 1, The Ballad of Gordon Gordon. For some people, grifting is in their DNA. Snake oil salesmen in the 1800s would promise to cure various ailments with their wondrous products. Today, influencers across Instagram and TikTok promise to cure various ailments with their wondrous products, all with free shipping if you order right now. When it comes to scams, there are the lazy, the despicable, but every once in a while, you read about a grift so impressive, you can't help but tip your hat to the maestro who pulled it off. That last one's the case for today's subject, Lord Gordon Gordon. Not much is known about the early life of Lord Double G, but he was born John Crowningsfield in 1840. According to rumors, he was the bastard son of a clergyman and his family's maid in the North Country of England. But his story only really begins to take shape in 1868. At this time, he took on the moniker of Lord Glencairn and passed himself off as part of Scottish royalty among his British peers. To complete the look, he employed a young valet who, quote, dressed in buckskin breeches, long boots, blue coat with gilded buttons, and an immense cockade upon his hat, which in Great Britain denotes that his master holds a commission under the sovereign. Throughout his scams, some patterns emerged. His typical scheme involved convincing one actually wealthy person that he, too, was wealthy. Using his new actually wealthy friend as reference, he could then rack up various debts with other people and institutions who believed his story that he came from money. From the newly dubbed Lord Glencairn, his mark was Howard Pattinson. Glencairn told Pattinson that he held estates in Scotland, England, and Ireland. He was also due to inherit the Glencairn title, which had remained dormant since 1796, while claiming connections with a family of the Prince of Wales as well as the Marquis of Hastings. The main selling point of this story, though, was that he was set to inherit £100,000 any day now. This fanciful story is what allowed him to pull out immense debts from Edinburgh-based jewelers and goldsmiths, Marshall & Sons. They checked out the Scottish pedigree and apparently found evidence to support that Glencairn's title had indeed been vacant since 1796. He began borrowing money from Marshall & Sons, which assumed that he'd be able to pay them back with this massive windfall that would be coming his way.
Man, being a confidence man in 1800s England was a lot different than being a con man in like modern day or...
Totally. There's no routing numbers then.
Yeah.
There's no account numbers. It's just like, no, I trust me, old chap. I've got like £100,000 coming next week. I'll gladly pay you for a cheeseburger today or for a cheeseburger Thursday.
Yeah, also...
Or whatever the fuck that saying is.
Yeah, also like, modern day con men, it's just like, yeah, like, I know this guy and if you just write this check, I can pay you back double this in 2 weeks or whatever. Just trust me. But back then it was just like, yes, you see that my sire is wearing a pointy, fluffy hat on, and he's wearing a dress that decries me as the honorary member of the Scorchelberry clan? Well, if you just look this way, I can show you these papers showing that in 4 years, I will inherit the Scorchelberry title, and the crest will be tattooed onto my right breast. So give me $100,000, please.
Right away, my lord, right away.
Oh my gosh, the Scorchelberries. His sire does have that pointy, fluffy hat on. He's telling the truth.
But there was no windfall, and when he continued not paying them, they naturally became anxious. Lord Glencairn borrowed £25,000, which would be the equivalent of £3.7 million in today's money, from Marshall & Son, as well as a sizable sum from Pattinson himself. And when they tried to get some of that money back, Glencairn fled England to the United States. It's here Glencairn, who would finally take on the name Lord Gordon Gordon, would pursue his piece de resistance. Can we talk for a second, though, about how this guy was just like, man, Americans are fucking stupid. They don't know anything about our dope-ass fucking European names. I'm Lord Gordon. Gordon?
Yeah, he's like, Glencairn would just confuse them. They're going to be like, is it Glencairn? Glencairn? They'll get hung up on that. I'm Lord Gordon Gordon. You can't fuck that up.
You just can't.
It's just, you learn how to pronounce the second name by the first name.
Yeah. Gordon? Yes. He emerged in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he played a long con of making a name for himself by playing things, well, low-key. Reports suggest that Minneapolis's elite came to know Gordon Gordon through subtle remarks rather than making a big presence of himself. Historian W.A. Crawford also noted the way that he carried himself at the time.
He was slender of build, about 5 feet 10 inches in height, and dressed with the greatest care, usually wearing gloves, patent leathers, and a silk hat. His hands were frequently manicured, and his hair was brushed as smooth as curly hair could be. He was clean-shaven, except 2 tufts of side whiskers, à l'anglaise. He was exceedingly self-poised, calm, and deliberate of speech, articulated with much precision, and posed with an amount of ceremony seldom seen on the American continent.
I think W.A. Crawford has a little crush on Lord Gordon Gordon.
Yeah, he's like, here's my historical account of my understanding of Lord Gordon Gordon. He was a total snack. Some would say a zaddy as well. He ate and left no crumbs.
When I first laid eyes on the one they call Lord Gordon Gordon, a thought flashed through my mind. It was, Lord, I want him to be sit on top of my Gordon.
Yeah, W.A. Crawford, he got conned in his heart.
W.A. Crawford? More like W.A. Cuckett.
Yeah. But also, it's funny that, like, when he was in the UK, in order to be a con man, he had to, like, meticulously come up with these, like, insanely intricate lies about his heritage because of the social caste system and how, you know, in England, it's all just based off of, like, what family are you from? And if you're from this family, you are royalty. And if you're from this, you're, you know, in the upper crust aristocracy or whatever. So all you have to do is just, like, forge your lineage and you can buy a lot of trust from people. In the United States, he just had to kind of seem fancy.
Yeah, he just had to have good posture.
Yeah, his strategy changed. Instead of having to meticulously craft these, like, lineages, he just had to, like, brush his hair in kind of a fancy way and then just be like, hello, gentlemen. And everyone was like, God darn diggity dang, give this fancy boy some money.
Gosh dang, boy, you got them sexy calves. Where you been hiding them gams, brother? You want to wrap them legs around my fucking throat?
Yeah. All of these, like, American dudes are just in love with him. He's like the gay Pied Piper of...
He's so pretty. They named him twice. He ain't... You know why they call him Lord Gordon Gordon? It's because it's Lord Gordon Gordon.
I love that they're just all in love with him. In this period of time, it was just, like, insanely homophobic and...
Not when you're Lord Gordon Gordon.
The homophobia just left their bodies, and
look at this fucking photo of him. He's wearing a kilt, gay. Bro. Who can fucking talk shit about this kilt action? And look at those shoes. Those shoes have, like, pleats on them.
Yep. Those are called saddle Oxfords.
Dude, like, that's what I'm saying. Saddy Oxfies forever, bro.
Yeah, more like Zaddy Oxfies.
More like Zaddy Oxfies, bro.
But yeah, he didn't have to do all the mental gymnastics anymore. He just had to play the caricature of an English person.
Yeah. And he's doing it for all of the countries in the UK. Like, he's dressed like a Scottish person, talking in an English accent, but he's, like, pretending he's from Wales. You know, he's like, they don't know. They don't know anything. Gordon Gordon had the capital to back up his demeanor. He deposited $40,000 into a Minneapolis bank, money he swindled from his previous marks, and thereby convincing those around him that he must be exceedingly wealthy. Yeah, that's a weird... Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, when you have $40,000 in fucking 18 whatever, you are exceedingly wealthy, right?
Yeah, it's ill-gotten gains, but you just are rich.
But you had them gains, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Got to get them gains.
Gains. Gordon Gordon's next mark was Colonel John S. Loomis, Land Commissioner of the Northern Pacific Railroad. He told Loomis that he had big plans of purchasing hundreds of thousands of acres of railroad land in Minnesota, with his intention being of moving people living in overcrowded areas of Scotland to the state. Northern Pacific had big plans to move westward, but they needed a lot more money to do so. The prospect of a wealthy Scot buying up a ton of land was very enticing for Loomis, so they spared no expense to woo Gordon Gordon into making the purchase final. To quote John Hammond, they spared no expense. Gordon Gordon was given his own personal secretary and valet as Loomis sent him on all expenses paid tours around the land throughout Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. He was accompanied by Northern Pacific officer and state officials, with Gordon Gordon requesting everyone refer to him as my lord. You know that this is like some kink where he's just like, call me my lord, call me my lord.
Yeah, it's like a royalty fetish.
Yeah. Every so often, Gordon Gordon would select a site where he'd talk about building a town or school. He'd even pick out names for them. His caravan dined on the finest china, eating expensive tropical fruits for dessert. Gordon Gordon was living it up, taking Loomis for everything he was worth.
This is like the most extravagant con I've ever heard. Like, this is just like fully immersive, full performance art.
Oh, yeah.
To try to like con these dudes into giving you money.
Totally.
Like you see movies like this where there's this convoluted act to trick people into thinking that you're a certain thing. And then you always hear like, but in real life, these things are much simpler. Like usually like confidence men, they just trick you into thinking that like their grandma is dying or something like that. It's like, it's way more boring than you would think it is.
Yeah.
But like this is something you would see in a movie where it's like he took these people on these tours dressed as this extravagant Scottish dandy and like they dined on the finest desserts all so he can just make them think he's rich.
Yeah. When all was said and done, Gordon Gordon's private tour of Minnesota cost over $45,000, just over $1 million in today's money. But Loomis told the other directors of the expansion that Gordon Gordon would spend $5 million to get all of the land. As anyone who's ever lived in Minnesota can tell you, there's only so much you can do in Minnesota.
Yeah, like become the greatest rock star of all fucking time, maybe.
Is that where Johnny Marr's from?
Yes.
Who the fuck is from Minnesota?
Prince.
Oh, that's right. I did know that. Yeah. Prince, my second favorite David Bowie persona.
I'm not even going to pick that up. I'm going to leave it on the ground like a dollar with some dog shit on it.
Why? Do you like the Thin White Duke more than Prince or less than Prince?
Yes.
Okay.
Ziggy Stardust is right above Prince for me.
Gordon Gordon left the state telling his gracious hosts that no one... In January 1872, Gordon Gordon left the state telling his gracious hosts that he needed to go back to New York in order to arrange the money to make the sale final. He just needed them to give him letters of introduction so that he could make his way into New York's high society, which they were more than happy to provide. Using these letters, Gordon Gordon was able to introduce himself effortlessly to the upper class of New York. By stroke of luck, Gordon Gordon traveled in the same train to New York as one Mrs. Belden from Minneapolis, who had a house in New York. He was actually able to stay in this home for the first couple months that he was there. He quickly made the acquaintance of Horace Greeley, editor of the New York Tribune, who was excited about the prospect of Gordon Gordon bringing Scots to reside in Minnesota. Through Greeley, Gordon Gordon would come to realize who his primary target for his ultimate scam could be: the Erie Railroad Company and its director, Jay Gould, one of the richest men alive at that time, as well as one of the most unscrupulous robber barons of the 19th century.
Man, Lord Gordon Gordon was just like, he was living this con man life.
Yeah.
He was like living, eating, and breathing it. He was like, where am I going? What's the next con? What's the next step in this slow burn?
Where's the fucking 7-part Netflix series about him?
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Me too. Gould wasn't popular at this time due to his shady business practices, although future historians would later note that he wasn't that much worse than other men of power at his time. But that still means, he was pretty bad. Gould was a bit of a scammer himself, albeit in a capitalistic kind of way, where he pretty much gets off scot-free for all of his schemes. One infamous chapter in his history was the Black Friday gold panic of 1869. The short of it is that Jay Gould and his partner James Fisk tried very hard to influence the Treasury not to sell any gold, which would make the value of their gold soar. Their plan was to corner the gold market, buying up as much as they could, with Gould even outright purchasing the 10th National Bank to use as a buying house. President Ulysses S. Grant eventually released $4 million worth of gold into the market, thereby collapsing the market and foiling Gould and Fisk's plan to corner it. But many investors lost a ton of money in the process, with Gould never facing any repercussions for his plot to influence the stock market. All this to say, if you're going to scam someone, it might as well be someone like Gould. It didn't take long for these two's path to cross. Gould was previously informed that Gordon Gordon owned $30 million in Erie stock with a control of $20 million more belonging to English nobility. Therefore, he could use his overwhelming control of the Erie Railway, which sent Gould into a panic. Gould met with Gordon Gordon to discuss some kind of truce, with them eventually reaching an agreement. With both their shares, they could install a new board of directors who could be completely favorable to both of their interests. Gordon Gordon wanted to install 3 of his people, while Gould could select the other 3, while 2, as Gordon Gordon insisted, be part of the board.
What do you think goes on in the mind of somebody like Lord Gordon Gordon? Is this person just like operating on pure animalistic instinct, and they're just in the moment, and they're, calculating all these things, and they're acting animalistically based on these mathematical equations that they're crunching in real time? Or do you think that they're in any way introspective and kind of self-aware of what's going on in the moment? Can you imagine, this guy has talked himself, just pure bullshit, talked himself into a situation where he's sitting and negotiating with one of the richest men in the United States, this insanely wealthy robber baron dude who's a national celebrity. There's a political cartoon of him that's put in some newspaper here in the script. These public, infamously and famously known person, incredibly rich, and he's sitting there and he's haggling with him about, how they're going to split up something and hatch a new plan because this guy feels like he's some kind of threat to him. And it's all bullshit. It's all just based on he heard a bunch of rumors that Lord Gordon Gordon just pulled out of his ass. He just said a bunch of little breadcrumbs and just started talking to this person and telling them this and talking to this person. And it all works itself into this fever pitch to where this person is oh shit, I got to have a meeting with Lord Gordon Gordon. And what does he do when he's there? Is he sitting there being how the fuck did I get myself here? Because that's what I would be like. I'd be sitting there being how did this happen? I mean, to a certain degree, that's kind of how I felt whenever Andrew WK pulled us into his kayfabe during his
absolute bullshit. Is that what he said?
Yeah, during his last album cycle, whenever he was doing that whole thing where he was pretending he was spiraling into insanity, and he was posting a bunch of just ranty things on social media, and then he was taking a bunch of people's videos and podcasts about him and posting them and being this is bullshit, these are lies, they've been paid by the big media to smear me or whatever. And he posted a link to our show and put us in his stories and was posting about us and stuff like that. And in that moment, I was just all we did to get to this was just we made this episode about him, and then I emailed with his manager one time, and then you kind of maybe talked to somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who kind of tried to talk to him.
No, yeah, I know the head of a punk record label that works with Andrew WK a lot, and so I was talking to that person to try and get him on the show, but I don't think he ever reached out.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that. I was how did we get to this place where he has incorporated us into his album cycle? This is so weird. This is so surreal that this is happening right now. And I just like what is Lord Gordon thinking when he's sitting there talking to one of the richest men in America, as if he's also one of the richest men in America?
You know, have you ever been in either seen or been in the play Babes in Toyland?
I mean, I've seen the Keanu Reeves film Babes in Toyland for sure.
I haven't seen that. I have no idea. Is that an adaptation of this play, or is that a completely separate thing? That
I don't know. It's a movie from the early 80s, and it's a Christmas movie about like going into a magical world of toys.
Yes. And there's an evil businessman who is the arch nemesis of the story. And in the third act, he sings a song. And the song is, "Money, money, money makes the world go round." That is what Gordon is fucking thinking in that moment.
He's just thinking that song.
Yes.
The Keanu Reeves version, though.
Sure, yeah. I've never seen the Keanu Reeves version, but I've been in 2 separate productions of that play. Both times I played that fucking "money, money, money makes the world go round."
It's Keanu Reeves, and I want to say like a Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, really?
Is in it.
I love a Jay Cons. Jay Cons of Little Children and The Rocketeer.
Yes. For some reason, Jennifer Connelly is sticking out to me.
Money, money, money makes the world go round.
No, it's Drew Barrymore.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. For someone who was previously terrified of losing control of Erie, it seemed like a perfect solution. Or at least, it would have been if Gordon actually had the amount of money that he claimed. Gordon played up how this deal wasn't entirely favorable to him, so Gould greased the wheels a bit. Gordon insisted on receiving $500,000 in cash and securities as a sign of good faith, considering everything he thought he would get out of the deal. Gould thought it was a no-brainer and handed the funds over. Gordon got $160,000 in cash and the rest in stocks for various companies. It was 1870s money. This would have been enough to set him up for life, but no good scam can go on forever. Speaking of a scam, Andrew, you got anything you want to fucking promote this episode?
Now they don't even make sense. You got to work on your segue game.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty great. I think it's pretty memorable.
If you want to get my book, Deadbolt AI Private Eye, you can visit my website, dapricerights.com. You can pick it up there. You can pick up Deep Cuts merch by going to deepcutspod.com. We got some t-shirts, we got some fanny packs, we got some baby onesies, all with some cool Deep Cuts graphics on them. We also have a Deep Cuts podcast mystery treehouse shoulder patch that you can pick up on our websites. You can get it on Deep Cuts Pod, you can get it on my website, or you can even get it on Dave's website.
HeyDaveBaker.com, where you can buy all my comics. You can also find my book, Mary Tyler Moorhawk, there, which is a hybrid novel, graphic novel, about a journalist 100 years in the future is obsessed with a TV show that only lasted 9 episodes, and his world gets turned upside down when he finds out that the creator of this show has his exact name. Also, speaking of those patches, multiple people came up to the table at New York Comic Con sporting those patches. I was like, damn!
That's wild, because like, do you seem to have that much of a density of Deep Cuts listeners approaching you at like West Coast cons?
I don't feel like
just
it's
based
as
on your
much.
stories, I'm like, are there just a bunch of Deep Cuts listeners in New York or on the East Coast for some reason?
There must be, or maybe it's that most of the people out here on the West Coast, like I know them maybe, like they're more
too cool to fucking show off their fandom for us.
I think it's more that like probably because we are both West Coast people, the people who are in the orbit who have merch either personally know us or are people who I've run into at the shows more often, you know, where I don't do shows in New York all that often. And so when there was a bunch of people coming up to me, it was really fun. It was really, really fun. There was one guy dressed as Gambit. We talked for like 10 minutes. Very sweet. Told me a bunch of really cool personal stories about how
he's like, oh, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Yeah, oh, I'm about to make a name for myself. Yeah. And then I was like, calm down, Channing.
It was Channing Tatum.
It was Channing Tatum, yeah.
Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Yeah.
Came to you, and he's a huge Deep Cuts fan.
Yeah. He's like, I fucking loved that fucking one about the woman who claimed that she could channel a ghost and wrote a novel from the ghost's perspective.
Yeah. Once again, how do I know a reference to a movie that came out while I was dead? I don't know.
Well, it's not like it doesn't cease to exist. You could have watched it.
Is that what I've done in the time since I came back to life? I've just been like freebasing pop culture for the last couple weeks.
I mean, at this point, it's probably about a month and a half, right?
Yeah.
That's enough time to see some movies. If I was going to tell you the second you got back in your body, the first thing I probably would have told you was, Andrew, they put Hugh Jackman in the suit, right? Like, that's probably one of the first things
the first thing you would have told me.
Yeah, probably. But that being said, you know, there was a lot of very cool, supportive people in New York. It was very fun. One dude came to the table. He had a copy of Mary Tyler Moore. He said he read it when it first came out, and he was reading it again on the train from Iowa or Ohio? Iowa. I think he was from Iowa. And he was like, yeah, I didn't realize in the back there was this secret message, so I translated it on the train right here. Spoiler alert for the book. There's a secret message and a secret ending in the end of the book. But he didn't realize where the key was to the substitution code, the cipher for the secret message at the end. And he came up and we were talking about the alternate ending. And yeah, it was really fun. It was a good time.
Nobody's ever solved any of the dozens of secret codes and messages hidden in deep cuts shit.
I said that exact same thing to him. I was like, you know, when Andrew was alive, he hid in BASIC like a bunch of codes in the show notes. And he was like, oh, really? That's cool. I'm going to have to go check those out. And I was like, he's dead. What do you give a shit?
He's fucking dead forever. Let's forget him and move on.
Yeah, but now that you're back to life, fuck it. Everybody should go translate those old codes. They're definitely beneficial.
Yeah. You know, this is as good a time as any now that we're just talking about fans and listeners and people, you know, in the wild. We haven't talked about this on the show yet, but another cool thing like that happened to us the other day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess as a celebration of me coming back from the dead, a little bit ago, Dave and I went out to see this like experimental theater horror play in Los Angeles. It was at the Titmouse Studios warehouse, the animation studio Titmouse, and then they have like this theater where they do like experimental theater stuff. And they recently put on this production where it was basically like a parody of a Disney World ride called Alien Encounter. And I guess like in the 90s, there was this ride at Disneyland where you would like go into this theater and sit, and then like there would be like this scientist that was telling you that they like were going to teleport an alien into the room. And then like the alien gets out of its little enclosure, and then the whole room goes pitch black. And then an alien just like wanders around the theater, like getting up in people's faces. You know, it was kind of this like scary ride experience thing. And it was closed in the early 2000s. And then they did this theater production, which was like a recreation of it, but like an extremely gory, like horror comedy version of it, where, you know, we went into the theater and...
You can't start there. You got to start with us in the parking lot, because that pays off the whole story. I show up, granted, I'm also there like 40 minutes early because Andrew is always fucking late. So I'm there just like hanging out, and it's just me and one other guy waiting for the fucking gates to open to this parking lot. They finally open. I see the minivan being driven by Andrew's wife. They go into the parking lot. So I walk across the street. I'm going in there, and I've come prepared. So I've got a backpack filled with trash bags.
Yeah, because they warned in the advertising for the show that you would likely get like covered in blood.
So his wife drops him off. He and I are standing outside with a small gaggle of other horrific, acne-scarred, poor-postured horror movie nerds. And I start fishing these trash bags out of my fucking backpack. And I'm like, here you go, Andrew. Here's your fucking armor of God, baby. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I brought trash bags so you don't get your shit all fucked up. And he's like, oh, but I'm wearing clothes I don't care about, namely this Honest shirt, because he's a piece of shit. Maybe that shouldn't go in the show. Maybe I shouldn't go in the show. So I say, I brought you the armor of God, baby. Here's some trash bags so you can not get your shit all fucked up. And he's like, oh, I don't give a fuck. I'm wearing stuff I don't care about, namely this shirt, because I don't give a fuck, because that guy sucks. So we're standing in the parking lot, and I fish out a bunch of these trash bags out of my backpack, and I'm like, I came prepared, baby. You're not going to fake blood all over your shit. And I hand it to him. I'm like, check out the armor of God, baby. And he goes, what? I'm wearing shit I don't care about. Namely this fucking...
I was like, you just gotta do it the third time now. It's gotta happen.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. I gave that guy $20 for his stupid fucking movie, and then he didn't even fucking send me the goddamn movie. He sent me a subscription model for some super scammy ass streaming service that I don't want. Fuck that.
And more importantly, he didn't fucking share our episode on his social media, which defeated the entire purpose of doing it.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Anyway, so we're standing in the parking lot, and I pull out all these trash bags from my backpack, and I hand one to Andrew, and I'm like, here's the armor of God, baby. You're not getting fucking fake blood all over your shitty fucking t-shirt for an unnamed person that we both don't like.
The funniest thing you could have done is just did it again.
I almost did. I'm handing him all these fucking trash bags, and as I'm putting on the trash bags, and I literally I made a skirt and a shirt out of trash bags for me to wear by puncturing holes and neck hole and everything in it.
And he handed me the trash bags. He's like, I got some extra large trash bags that barely even fit me. They're too big. And I try to put it on. I'm like, this is like doll's clothing. These aren't like trash bags from the trash. These are like mini trash bags for like the bathroom trash or something. These do not fit me at all.
I think that more says about your Adonis-esque physique than the size of trash cans, because they are just normal trash bags. But so we're standing there, and Andrew doesn't wear it, because he's just like, fuck it, whatever. But I am fully committed to this thing, because I know that we're going to get called in here, and I'm not going to have time to get my shit all covered up. So I'm just standing in the goddamn parking lot for 25 minutes wearing entirely trash bags.
Yep.
We go into the theater. The show happens. It's super fun, zany, Peter Jackson-esque splatterpunk stuff. Gore's going everywhere. No, not Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson. We're talking fucking brain dead, dead alive
Not
Peter Jackson.
Frighteners Peter Jackson.
Not that pussy-ass Frighteners shit. Yeah, this is fucking bad taste Peter Jackson. Blood spraying everywhere. And, we both got coated. I feel like you got a little more than I did. But we both got coated in fake blood. And then you didn't tell me afterwards we went to dinner that I had purple blood all over my face. We're just sitting in Denny's for like 20 minutes.
I already said this, but apparently that shade of color, I'm colorblind. And that shade of color apparently just blends in with skin tone, because I don't know what you're talking about.
I look like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Predator, covered in
You went
purple.
into the bathroom and you came out and you're like, why didn't you tell me my face was covered in blood? I literally had no idea. Like, you just looked normal to me.
I fucking wasn't. So, we go into the show. It's super, super fun. We come out. We're standing on the corner talking about the show, and
you're still wearing the trash bags. And I forget what we were talking about, something that was also kind of an embarrassing thing to be talking about. We were just saying something stupid. Not like we were revealing embarrassing facts about ourselves.
No, we were just shit talking that piece of shit whose t-shirt you were wearing.
Yes. No, we were just saying some silly thing. I can't remember what it was, but we were just saying something that was like very silly. And then two people walk by us from out of the gate. Man and woman walk out from the show that we were just at. And the woman turns around and she says, I love your podcast. And then she walked away.
I think I exclaimed in a non-cool way, what the fuck?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Wearing trash bags.
Yeah.
This person, these two people, were in the parking lot with us, at least 30 feet away from us, and they were both looking at us, and the woman was like, that's Dave Baker, and that's Andrew Spice.
That's Andrew Price.
Oh, and that's Andrew Price.
He's alive.
They host that podcast, and that motherfucker's wearing exclusively trash bags.
And it's like, it would make more sense if they were both wearing trash bags, but only he's wearing trash bags.
Only he's wearing trash bags.
Which gives the false sense that you're the neurotic, like overly paranoid one.
Yeah. But then she looked, you can tell that she leaned in, squinted, and looked in closer and was like, oh my God, she's wearing a shirt. That piece of shit.
That's why she didn't want to stop and talk to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, she walked by and just said that and then walked off. And we were just like, we were kind of left in a state of incredulity because like we've been recognized in public, but never like in such a random place.
Yeah.
We were just out hanging out.
Well, I think the other component of that too is that you and I, we usually like are texting a lot or working on stuff together, or I'm at your house. And that's not true. Every once in a while, we go see shitty movies.
Yeah.
We go see movies, and because the two of us are there, it becomes a black hole of negativity, and the movie sucks.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter what we see, the movie will suck because we're watching it together.
If you ever wanted a movie to be good, we can't go see it.
Yeah. That being said, you didn't come with me to go see The Crow, and it still sucked.
Well, some things are inevitable.
Yeah. But maybe if you would come and seen it with me, I would still be able to talk to that girl.
If I'd come and seen it with you, the world would have ended.
Yeah. If you had come and seen it with me, maybe James O'Barr himself would have just been in the theater being like, hello, boys.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of your podcast.
But
I see you're wearing a shirt. That guy fucking sucks.
But yeah, she said that, and it was like, the big thing was just that she just said that and walked away. And it's like, when you come out of nowhere and say something like that, like, I wish you would have stopped and like talked for a little bit longer. I just would want to pick somebody's brain about like what they like about the show.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we do get to talk to people. Like I said, like we're in the Discord and we can talk to listeners, but that feels like a controlled environment because it's like you're in this thing for the podcast and
it self-selects to have somebody already be passionate.
yeah,
about it.
but I would love to just sit in some random person who likes the show and listens to the show and then just stumbles across us in the real world in meat space, as we say. I would love to just pick that person's brain and just be like, when did you start listening to the show? How'd you find it? It was like the creative fulfillment equivalent of this one time in like 2011 or 2010 or something like that. I was working at a movie theater and I went out and I was throwing trash bags in the dumpster. And then a girl drove by, stopped, rolled her window down, said, hey, I think you're cute. And then sped off. And I was just like, wait, why don't you just come back and let's fall in love?
Wait, why don't you come back and we can fuck behind this dumpster?
Come back and let's have 40 years of a life together. Like, what are you driving off for? You're going to say that and then not spend the rest of your life with me and grow old and die in my arms?
Wait, what? You're going to say something like that and then not tingle my jingleberries? No, that's not. Oh, okay.
It was the creative fulfillment of that, equivalent of that, where I was like, wait, you're just going to say that? And then you're not going to like stand here and like talk about the show for 4 hours and tell us about like all of your favorite scenes and what you love about the narrative stuff.
And what you don't love about the narrative stuff, which is all of it, and how you wish that we would never do it, but then we would say, go fuck yourself. Who are you? Fucking
God. But what I'm saying is, if you're out there and you're listening to this, send us email.
Here's the thing. Saying that we're micro celebrities is a way overstatement. We're not celebrities. We just want to fucking be friends.
Yeah.
Let's just be fucking friends, as much as I was being crass about the whole like fucking behind the dumpster thing, which I mean, I'm open to. We just want to be homies. Let's be homies behind the dumpsters, you know?
Yeah.
Let's be dumpster homies.
Dumpster homies.
Dude.
That's really going
to
that's make
I mean,
she's like, I'm so glad I didn't stop and talk.
No, man, you and I dumpster homies.
Yeah. Dumpster homies, we make our dreams come true.
Who needs a girl to call you cute when you can have a dumpster homie?
Yeah, all you need is dumpster homies.
Act 2, War. What is it good for? Getting a con man, apparently. Gordon could have easily sailed off into the night, never to be heard from again. But he remained in New York after getting all his Gould money and began selling off the stocks. Gould immediately knew something was off due to the stock market's trade activity and suspected Gordon. He told brokers not to accept any trades and used Horace Greeley as an intermediary to get his money back from Lord Gordon. To his credit, he did for the most part. He returned the cash and most of the stocks, but with only about 150,000 of the stocks still missing, presumably the stocks he didn't already sell. It was enough for Gould to take Gordon to court for obtaining money under false pretenses. Lord Gordon was arrested on April 9th, 1872. Amazingly, Gordon still had his wealthy friends by his side, like Horace F. Clark and A.F. Roberts, who paid his $40,000 bond. This allowed him to remain free during the subsequent trial. His trial began on May 17th, with Gordon being unflappable on the witness stand at first. W.A. Crawford noted of his demeanor.
During 3 hours of vigorous examination, he sat with his legs crossed and his thumbs thrust carelessly into his waistcoat pockets, as unconcerned and unruffled as if conversing in a drawing room. And the way his thumbs caressed the outline of his tautly muscular body that showed itself through the thin fabric of his clothes made every lady and perhaps man in the room swoon.
But cracks soon began forming in his story, specifically when it came to his family. Gordon provided names and addresses for his stepfather, sister, brother-in-law, and uncle. He also gave names of English nobility who could vouch for him, which seemed enough to please the court. The trial had been adjourned for the day, while Gordon sent out cables to confirm the identities of the people Gordon mentioned. But no one by those names he provided lined up with those addresses.
I like that once again, even the American courts, like he's just in there and he's just like, yes, my cousin is Lord Schneagle Beagle Canterbury the Schnorbleborscht. And they're like, wow, that sounds really fancy. I think this guy's telling the truth.
The jig was up, and Gould was ready to present his findings to the court the next day to show Lord Gordon lied. But there would be no next day, as Gordon got on a train to Montreal, Canada, baby! Toot toot! Chugga chugga, frauda chugga, chugga chugga, frauda chugga, chugga chugga, liza chugga, chugga chugga, liza chugga, chugga chugga, frauda chugga, chugga.
This is like exclusively the reason, because, you know, you're not allowed to cross the Canadian border if you have a criminal record. This is exclusively the reason why.
Yeah.
They're like, never again.
Yeah, Lord Frauden, am I right? Gould offered $25,000 in rewards for Gordon's arrest, and also began an investigation in Europe to learn more about his past. It was here he uncovered his former Lord Glencairn alias, as well as previous scams against Marshall & Son jewelers. For about a year, no one knew where Gordon had wound up until he was spotted walking down Main Street by George N. Merriman, a Minneapolis lumber merchant in Winnipeg on business.
How did you recognize this guy just out in public a year later? He's like, oh, he was the only guy walking down the street with like giant ruffled pantaloons and a kilt and then a giant 5-foot-high powdered wig. He's like, hello, I'm here in Canada as a Canadian.
My name is Lord Gordon Cairn.
My name is Lord Gordon, eh?
My name is Lord Fuck them now.
My name is Lord Maple Syrupington.
Maple Surrington.
The Canadian Lord of all Tim Hortons?
Yeah, my name is Tim Horton. I'm thinking about starting a chain of affordable coffee restaurants. Cafes.
And this is how Tim Horton started. I'm Dave Baker.
Merriman informed George A. Brackett, the mayor of Minneapolis, of the sighting, and Brackett told his friend, A.F. Roberts, one of the men who paid Gordon's bond. Horace F. Clark, the other guy who paid the bond, had died by this point, meaning Roberts was fully on the hook for losing the money if he couldn't get Gordon to stand trial. It didn't take long for word to reach Gould, and after failing to convince Canadian authorities to hand him over, a group of men decided to just hop over to Canada and kidnap him and forcefully bring him back to the US.
They went full J.J. Arms on his ass.
Yeah. Part of his party included future US Congressman Eugene McLanahan Wilson, John Gilfrin, and Lauren Fletcher. Along with some Minneapolis police officers, they crossed the border and eventually found Gordon sitting on a front porch of a house belonging to a member of the Manitoba legislature.
They find him and they grab him and he's like, no, you can't do this. I have diplomatic immunity. Have you not seen Die Hard 2? Is it? Or 3?
3.
Yes, 3. With a vengeance. No,
Yeah.
that's...
Yeah, it's 3.
No, it's 3. That's...
It's
yes.
3. Yeah.
You can't do this to me.
Then the other, one of those guys is just like, there's snakes on this motherfucking plane. The abductors threw Gordon into the back of their wagon and drove off. They headed back to bring the swindler back to the US, and maybe that would have spelled the end of Gordon's saga had Fletcher not let slip their plans in Winnipeg, with word eventually getting to Winnipeg Mayor Francis Evan Cornish. Cornish sent out telegrams for Canadian authorities to be aware of the wagon kidnapping Gordon, and when they got to the border, they were finally stopped by Canadian authorities. The men at the border thought Gordon Gordon was the victim and prominently arrested his assailants, throwing them into jail. It also likely didn't hurt that Gordon Gordon was well liked around those parts due to promises of, you guessed it, buying large portions of land. At their eventual trial, a judge forbade his kidnappers bail.
Man, what a
fucking... Yeah.
I mean, this dude, like, he defrauded multiple people out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, which was the equivalent of millions of dollars today.
Yeah.
And he was such a smooth talking fucking zaddy that not only did he have this like historian dude like just all over his nuts. What's that guy's name? Crawford.
Yeah.
But also like he defrauds all these people and then they come and they just try to get him so that he can like face his crimes. And then he's got another set of people that are just like, no, don't you touch our dear little Gordon Gordon. He's our baby sweetheart. And you can never hurt him.
You know why his name's Gordon Gordon? Because he's so beautiful. Saying Gordon once wouldn't describe him accurately.
Yeah, and this is the mayor of Winnipeg. He's just like, don't touch him.
Don't touch him, eh?
But Daddy, I love him.
A full-blown international incident broke out between the United States and Canada. Minnesota Governor Horace Austin demanded the men's return, and he developed a militia to be ready to break into Canada at a moment's notice, with thousands of Minnesotans volunteering for the effort. President Grant even got involved to authorize sending the army into Canada. Canada eventually relented and released the kidnapping party, avoiding a U.S. invasion of the country, and Gould sought out the proper methods to extradite Gordon Gordon. But it was his older target, Marshall & Sons, that would eventually be his undoing. The international incident made waves across the pond, with the jewelers finally figuring out where Lord Glencairn, as he was known to them, had gone. They dispatched a representative to the Canadian government who was able to identify Lord Gordon Gordon as Lord Glencairn. Grand larceny and embezzlement are not ordinarily crimes serious enough to warrant extradition. And Gordon Gordon tried to convince authorities that Marshall & Sons' efforts were yet another smear campaign for Jay Gould. Perhaps Canada realized Gordon Gordon was more trouble than he was worth at this time, and vowed to get him out of the country so that he could stand trial for his crimes, which would never come to pass. The night before the Canadian authorities were to send him back to Europe, Lord Gordon Gordon threw one last lavish party for all of his affluent friends, showering them with gifts, perhaps in one final attempt to convince people that he, too, was one of them.
He was like the 1800s con man of rich people equivalent of whenever your job like tries to like smooth things over by like buying pizza for everybody.
Yeah.
He's just like, what? No, they're telling you that I'm like a con man and I'm swindling people out of millions of dollars and that I'm actually just tricking you and I'm not actually going to buy a bunch of land. Well, how about this lavish party with fruits and creams?
He is a fruits and creams guy. He employs the fruits and creams defense way too often.
You say that I'm a criminal of the highest order and that everything I've ever said is a lie? Well, how about fruits and creams?
The next morning, the police arrived with Alexander Monroe of the Toronto Police, providing this account of what happened.
I told Gordon that I had come to arrest him and that I had a warrant. I showed him the warrant. He said it was all right, just glanced over it. Don't think he read it at all, and he said he was ready to go. Gave him a few minutes to put on warmer clothes. He wanted to know if I intended taking him through the States. I told him I did not. He got dressed and was all ready to go, with the exception of a Scotch cap. He called for it. He made a sort of rush into the bedroom. Where he got the revolver, I do not know. I was standing in the door within 4 feet of him. The next thing I saw was him turning around with his back against the wall with the revolver in his hand. I made a rush toward him to prevent him shooting. I expected it was meant for myself, and as I was about to get hold of him, the gun went off. He made some remark while holding the revolver in his hand, but I did not catch the meaning. He sank down against the wall just as I got a hold of him. I saw the blood coming out of his left ear. That was the first I noticed. Afterwards, saw the wound in his right temple. I believe he was dying fast and was dead immediately. Damn.
Damn.
It's all fun and games and fruits and creams until it just takes a turn, and then it's like there's no way out. Got to put a bullet right into my head.
It's all fruits and creams until somebody puts a derringer to their own forehead and squeezes.
Yep.
Lord Gordon Gordon, a.k.a. Lord Glencairn, a.k.a. Lord Gordon, a.k.a. the Honorable Mr. Herbert Hamilton, a.k.a. John Herbert Charles Gordon, died August 1st, 1874. He died with 37 cents in his pocket, having seemingly given away much of what he pilfered from others throughout his time in Canada. Lord Gordon Gordon's saga had come to a close. In the years that followed, he ascended into mythology and folklore, especially since no one could really figure out where he came from. In 1876, the Manitoba Free Press tried to discern his true lineage, to no avail, writing,
"In none of the printed proceedings or elsewhere is there a scrap of intelligence concerning the real name or relatives of this remarkable person. No one seems to know who or what he was, who were his parents, or where he was born. He altogether remains a mystery. It would be curious to know if anyone lamented his lost opportunities or mourned his deplorable fate."
Various myths, rumors, and conspiracies have emerged concerning Lord Gordon Gordon over the years. In 1934, an article claimed there was a plot to desecrate his grave, stating,
"It was said that those New York men offered $10,000 reward money to have the body moved across the line. The night after the burial, all the dogs in the neighborhood were howling in an unearthly manner, and many believed that the grave was opened then by someone who wanted the reward."
Naturally, no evidence or eyewitnesses exist to support such a claim, but it's one of those things that further adds to the con artist's legend. A man who seemingly came out of nothing and through some smooth talking convinced major jewelers, banks, and rich folks to just give him money. Cons are as American as apple pie. Only instead of getting apple pie, you give someone your life savings for the promise of an apple pie later, only for them to abscond to Canada while you're left empty-handed. Because we live in the age of the grift. YouTubers will sell kids Lunchable knockoffs that aren't any healthier than a Lunchable and cost way more. Financial-based influencers will rent out a private jet for an hour to convince viewers that they know what they're talking about, so they'll sign up for their bullshit money-making course. And from cryptocurrencies to NFTs to AI, tech bros will talk up anything their companies come out with to try and raise those sweet, sweet capital funds. The cons put out by people like Gordon Gordon seem almost quaint in comparison. Maybe it's because he mostly targeted people who were inconceivably rich already, instead of folks trying to just get by. He had nothing but a silver tongue, a kilt, and knowing how to commit to a bit. Well, that's Lord Gordon Gordon. Do you have closing thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty surface level. I don't think there's any deeper philosophical thing.
No, there definitely is. And that is, in the world we live in, as long as you're white, you can just get away with shit.
And as long as you give plentiful fruits and creams.
I'm Dave Baker.
And I'm Spandrew Spice. Oh, fuck! And I'm Andrew Price.
This has been Deep Cuts. If you'd like to find me on the internet, you can do so at heydavebaker.com, where you can find my comics and my book, Mary Tyler Moorhawk, wherever books are sold. Andrew Price, where can people find you on the internet?
That's my name indeed. Don't wear it out or call me something different. And you can find my book, Deadbolt AI Private Eye, by going to dapricewrites.com. You can follow us on social media by going to Facebook and searching Deep Cuts Podcast. You can join our Facebook group by searching Deep Cuts Podcast Facebook group. Join that. There's a cool community of people who talk about the show, make memes about the show, talk about other things, and hang out. You can also join our Discord server, bit.ly.com/DeepCutsDiscord, where there's another cool community of people who talk about the show, make memes about the show, talk about stuff, play games, hang out, other cool stuff like that. You can follow us on Instagram at Deep Cuts Pod. You can follow us on TikTok at Mystery Treehouse, and you can follow me on TikTok at Dead Boy Detective. Deep Cuts is a production by Boy Genius Media. If you'd like to find this show and others like it, please visit boygeniusmedia.com or deepcutspod.com.
If you want to join in on post-episode discussions, please join the Deep Cuts Podcast Facebook group. Finally, subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional video content.
The incidental music for this episode was created by D. Catalano, whose music can be found at wekeepoddhours.bandcamp.com. This episode of Deep Cuts was written by Mike Bedard. The episode was edited by Louis Poggie. If you'd be interested in writing for Deep Cuts, email andrew@boygeniusmedia.com.